All right, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Today's video sponsored by Connors and Ferris. Our 10 takeaways from what went down in this Bills-Steelers preseason game. Mike Catalana and Dan Fates. I'm Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy our content. All right,
we're all back together.
Yes, also that's a bright spot because we're going to get into some not so bright spots. All right.
Yeah.
Speaking of this game, Mike, let's start with some of the positives we did see. Josh Allen. I thought Allen was not the problem in this game tonight.
No, not at all. I love seeing him on the sidelines talking and smiling. Yes. I told you that before the game. That's what we wanted to see. Him come out healthy. He ran around. Now, look, I'm going to say something. Hey, Josh, stop trying to run around making that kind of play in preseason game number 2. Okay? It's not worth it. He talks about being smart at times. He ended up taking a little bit of a hit, running around in the backfield. Stop. But he threw the ball well. I mean, he looked like Josh in there. And when I know we're going to talk about the help he did not get tonight, I've seen enough of him in the preseason. This is what preseason is. Dan, I don't want to see him again on the field.
Please bubble wrap Josh Allen and ship him down to the Meadowlands, and we can work with it from there. To some of the respects, and like I know we'll get into the 10 takeaways that we have here, but we didn't really learn anything new today. I think that's my takeaway, in that we saw what Josh Allen can do under pressure. The one throw he had to Gabe Davis, phenomenal, flat-footed, just arm talent, 40-plus yard throw right on the money to Gabe. Like, he still was fine. And you could tell he was getting frustrated too. Just the fact of there were issues. There was a lot of penalties. There was offensive line issues, but Josh Allen wasn't the problem. So I think that this isn't a concern for me of like, oh, Josh looked off or anything like that. Like, relax. It's Josh Allen. It's Stephon Diggs. And whenever he was on time and had a simple throw, he made it.
Yeah, I agree. It was like, all right, Josh.
What are you cheesing about, Mike?
No, I'm just laughing at my background here. It's like I'm in a prison cell. Well, we're renovating our house, and it's going to go on, I don't know, for 2 or 3 more years at this point, what it feels like. But I'm like, I got nowhere to go. So I'm in here. But Jenna is, maybe you can give a little insight to where
we're in a special, how much can I say?
I'd say it is the beginning. You are in the bare bones facility where we are going to be soon.
Big things coming for the
Josh Allen rookie year project phase. That's where you are.
Yes.
We're building something.
But in a few weeks, it's going to be Pro Bowl.
The hurdle over Allen. Minnesota.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Josh, like he played well. I don't remember his exact stat line, but I felt like he looked like the Josh Allen that we've seen. The thing was, what was concerning was, and this was another takeaway, was Josh was having to scramble and run all over the place because the offensive line continued to be an issue. And that was something that we talked about in the offseason. Like, the Bills, did they do enough to address the issue? And we talked about, like, it seemed like they had, but at the same point, Dan, like, when you're seeing a guy that's worth $250 million investment, once again, running for his life, not having time to set up to get the plays and push the ball down the field, like, it's concerning.
Yeah, I don't want to single out one guy because I think a lot of the offensive line played poorly. I think Deion Dawkins played poorly. He had a false start. The main problem, I guess we do have to put it on one person. Here I go going, I'm not going to put it on one person, but I will. And it was Spencer Brown, who just was anemic today. Like, to put it nicely, like, he just had one of those really bad games. And I don't know if it was one thing or another, but I don't think that we could really use a back excuse or a back injury anymore. Like, this is kind of, we said, they didn't draft anybody to play tackle. They had Brandon Shell retire. They're getting thinner and thinner at tackle. They need Spencer Brown to play like he did his rookie year. And tonight, there were concerns heading into this season. Those concerns were amplified tonight.
Yeah.
Dan says, I'm not going to blame any one person, but Spencer Brown was anemic.
Why? Like,
I will say this. Look, I don't know how good Spencer Brown can be. Right? I don't know. At some point, I'm not worried about some point. It is right tackle for Josh Allen in a big season for this team. I'm sorry, this isn't personal. I don't care. I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he has played well enough to be in that spot. But right now, he's the only guy. I'm telling you, fans don't like seeing this. They think any guy who's out there on the waiver wire or in a trade late is no good. I'm out there looking for tackles. Poor Tommy Doyle got hurt again. We don't know for sure how bad it is. The poor guy hurts himself last September, and now he's out again, getting carted off. But they need tackles that have played. I don't know if Quessenberry, we know last year when he had to play, it wasn't great. They need help at tackle, and it's somebody who can push to play if they need to. I think it's a problem. Yes, the whole line, the penalties, the pre-snap stuff, it was a joke how bad it was. And some of this has to go on Aaron Cromer. He's the O-line coach. They just look disorganized tonight.
And Bean.
But yes. Now, the other part of that, though, I liked what I saw from Osiris Torrence, and I think he's locked up that spot. I think I'm jumping ahead, right, Jenna? We had that as one of our observations.
But I think that's fair because for as shaky as you talked about the offensive line was, and Dan, we were talking about it in our group chat, like Osiris Torrence looked like that guy. You drafted him in the second round. We joke about how he's like wide. He's a big guy, but he was a presence, and he was very stable is the word that comes to mind, but I thought he just played really steady.
Yeah, they talked about him being an ass kicker coming out of Florida. That was one of the things they talked about. I would have liked him in the first round. They got him in the second round, and he has been steady and as consistent as there has been. I think the right guard position the battle is locked up. For as bad as Spencer Brown looked next to him, he looked every bit ready to be a starter in this league at that position. So I was really excited. The silver lining to me out of the offensive line issues was the rookie Torrence.
Yeah, I think that's pretty.
Now I got to give, Spencer Brown was dealing a lot with TJ Watt over there, and Watt just handles people. And look, Dion did not look great either. And, at the end of last year, there were some issues watching Dion, but I thought the whole line was not really in concert. They did not play well as a group. And so we start out this year understanding, and I know we're going to say it this way, it's a preseason game. It's not game planning. Steelers play a different front. There are some mitigating factors that go into it. But Dan, sometimes it's like line up a guy against the guy on the other side, beat him, play the game. That's kind of what you do in the preseason a lot, and they didn't do it tonight.
Yeah, I did have some people tell me that Spencer Brown should be cut. I'm glad we're not overreacting. You know what? I'm just really glad as a fan. Twitter was something tonight for Bills fans. Very calm, very level-headed. There was no overreacting. Everybody was just steady Eddie. Everybody always says I'm the negative one, but I just found myself laughing about how somebody tweeted me and said that Sean McDermott shouldn't get on the plane. Like, that's where we were at. Like, guys, the amount of game planning that went into this matchup was zero. Like, let's take a break. Like,
I hear that. I get that. And it is the preseason and there wasn't game planning, but I also think and understand why Bills fans are like, okay, but there was 12 penalties in the first half. And
absolutely.
Like that is sloppy. That is undisciplined. That is unfocused. That is
and
that's preseason football.
And Jenna, from what I hear,
12 is ridiculous, Dan.
Sean really doesn't like penalties.
Yeah.
No coaches like them, but he likes them the least.
The least, yeah.
Seriously?
But I hear you, Dan. Like the Bills, hey, they were not game planning any of that, but all the false start, all these types of penalties that you're like, those add up. I mean, I literally tweeted out 11 penalties in the first half is preposterous. And then they had another penalty after that. I was like,
yeah, you were asking us in the group you were asking us in the group text, and in the middle of it, I had to respond, we're now at 12. Yeah, it was sloppy. You know what it looked like to me, Jenna? It looked like a preseason football game in August. Like, I just don't care. I am not going to overreact at all to this. at all.
No, I think there's overreaction, but I also think there's a level of concern. Like the Steelers were also playing preseason football and they did not look as sloppy. They did not look as unorganized. They did not have as many penalties. Like I agree with you, it's the preseason, but the preseason has the ability to maybe show and lead clues as to what could be an issue for the upcoming season. So
No
seeing
question.
penalties is something that we're not really used to with a Sean McDermott-led team. But at the same point, it is a concern for me because it's just so uncharacteristic and they were coming from every side of the ball.
Yeah. Two things. One, we will absolutely have referees at practice this week in Orchard Park. There is no question we will see referees at Orchard Park. Two, my thing is that all of my concerns heading into this season were never going to be put away or amplified by this game. I had concerns about Spencer Brown before this matchup. Like that is kind of who I think Spencer Brown is. And to some respects, I agree with Mike that you got to make a change. You've also kind of made your bed to this point and you kind of got to lay with it.
I didn't say you got to make a change. I say they need depth and they need somebody who can step in if you decide it's not working. And I'm talking about a guy who can play. I mean, Brandon Shell didn't want to play. He retired. That's his choice. And the other guys maybe aren't ready. I mean, they need to be out there looking, I'd say, for a veteran tackle
100%
who can play that position if need be. By the way, Jenna, I'm going to go back to my background here. I put in the same amount of game planning into this as the Bills did for tonight. But no, Dan, but yeah, you make the point. You had concerns going in. We're now 2 preseason games in. Like the season's coming fast. Like this is a problem. The O-line is a problem. It's not going away.
I hear what you're saying, Dan. You're like, it's the preseason. You can't have that much stock in it. And I hear that. But there's also like dismissing the things that we had concerns about already. And then the amplification of yet once again, you think about this, they didn't game plan. So this is like their natural level. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is like where they're at. And it's concerning.
I have seen people talk about how this is the most deepest Bills roster, and this roster is better than years past. The most talented weapons around Josh Allen. I severely disagree. Yeah. I think last year's roster was more talented. I think there was more depth on last year's roster. We're going to see this year whether or not that's true. We can't make that decision. And that's what I'm saying is that we're looking here and we're recording this podcast on August 19th at 9:34 p.m. Like, I don't think we're going to be talking about this come November, December. So that's where I'm at. And again, I know it's football. It's exciting. We want to talk about it.
You don't think we're going to be talking about the right tackle position in November?
I don't think we're going to be talking about a game against the Steelers like in the preseason.
I don't care about the game.
Of course that, yeah.
I don't care about the game. I don't care how they played in the game.
You care about the themes that happen in the game.
27-15 is the final, by the way.
27-15.
Scoregami?
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't care. And like everybody being more outraged makes me even think less of that game.
You are so funny to me because I feel like you get so worked up about some stuff and then other stuff you're like, yeah, doesn't matter at all. And you're like, okay,
you zig Jenna when everybody zags.
That is Dan Fate's hot takes motto.
Jenna, the Dan Fate's coffee mug is spinning right now.
Yeah, I had it today and Dan was right. It might be flipping.
You're going to spin it. There it is.
No.
Hey, let's continue on our 10. Let's talk about the big positive I thought today was our first real look at Kincaid.
Yeah, he looks good.
Yeah, he looks good. Dan, are we okay with saying he looks good now?
Yeah, I was the one. I went back and found my tweet that I was like, I will not overreact to one practice. I will not overreact to one. And now I'm going, I'm kind of overreacting. Like this was pretty sharp. Like this, he looked like obviously they put linebackers on him, and that's hopefully the mismatch that the Bills are hoping to create because in the middle of the field against the linebacker, he's just too quick and fast. So I liked it. I was a big fan. That was him and Torrence were my two biggest positives to take away from today.
Yeah, I thought he played really well. He looked smooth once again. I feel like at this point, like it doesn't seem like he's a rookie trying to transition to the game. He did have the one penalty, but I feel like when you see him in stride. Like he's able to bring the ball in. He's really good. I mean,
isn't it funny, Janet? I was going to say, you can almost just say who didn't have a penalty. The tight ends had penalties. Everybody on the offensive line, wide receiver, like everybody. And of course, Elam had one. He has one in every game.
Yeah.
But yeah, just too many.
Yeah. Well, I think we can talk about in general though, like the pass catchers, like Diggs had a couple nice catches. It's going to be Diggs. He's going to do that. But Gabe Davis, I mean, that one throw and catch from Allen to Gabe Davis that didn't end up counting because of a Spencer Brown hold. But I mean, we mentioned earlier, like that kind of throw and just the insanity that is Josh Allen. Yeah. But it seemed like Davis felt a lot more comfortable as well.
You saw the consistency and a little bit more focus. That play is a very tough play. Concentration, going up over your head as well as keeping your feet in bounds. I thought that was the play that, really kind of stood out to me of, all right, we need that consistently. But that was one of those plays that you went, that's what Gabe Davis can bring when Gabe is at his best.
And
I agree with you, Jen. I also thought Trent Sherfield made a really nice catch over the middle. Got hit, held on to the ball. It's what he's got to do. Yeah. And it was at the end of the game, but Justin Shorter, the rookie, caught everything his way, ended up with a touchdown late from Kyle Allen. So good to see him have some success. Again, at the back end of the position. Mm-hmm. I like the one quick ball they got to Deontay Hardy early. I think he picked up about 7 or 8 yards. That's what I want to see.
Block in the back, Spencer Brown. That one came back, but that was a nice play. I liked that one too.
Yeah. Yeah, boom, we're keep Spencer. Yeah.
It was a lot.
Sorry, bud.
Yeah. I'm not going to blame anyone, but Dan's like, bust Spencer Brown, just throwing him underneath. Talking about the backup quarterback situation.
Yeah, it was over last week. Kyle Allen's the backup. We said this, at least I was pretty loud about it. And look, Kyle Allen was better tonight, but again, he's out there with the second and third stringers towards the end of the game. He looked better than he did in the last game. Matt Barkley, I'm not burying Matt Barkley. I tweeted this. Matt Barkley is the third string quarterback on this team. Mm-hmm. If you're going to have a third guy as like an emergency guy, he knows the offense. Josh likes him. They play golf together. He's a smart guy. That's where he belongs. He's not the backup. It's Kyle Allen, unless Dan, they make some decision. First of all, Barkley got hurt, it looked like, right? We don't know for sure.
Yeah. They said he would not return to the game with an elbow.
I would have thought he would have been about done by then anyhow. The
guy had, agree.
4 turnovers in the game? Tough to do in a preseason game, but 4 turnovers. But this is who he is. And I never thought he was going to be the backup. I thought if they really were worried about Kyle Allen, and they may still be, but I think Brandon Beane's got other things to worry about than the second quarterback now. I think it's going to be Kyle Allen when they start the season, and they hope he never has to go in the game.
Obviously, this isn't a story that's new to anybody, but it always makes me think of this when it comes to the preseason. Peyton Manning, when he was in Indianapolis, took every single snap during practice, during training camp, during all of those things. And I believe Tony Dungy was the coach at the time and went up to Tom Moore, who was the OC, and said, why don't we work in our backup quarterbacks? And Tom Moore's answer was pretty much like, if Peyton goes down, we're screwed anyway. So why give anybody else any reps? That's kind of what the Bills are. If Josh goes down, they're screwed.
But you may need him again for a quarter or a game. I actually heard somebody discussing backup quarterbacks, a guy who covers the league, and he was like, look, you want a guy, if he's got to play 2 games, you can split him. Yeah. And you can game plan for him. Sure. And you can beat somebody with him. Right? I mean, if it's more than that, he better be pretty good. But that's kind of the thinking, I think, of most teams in the backup. And the reason that the disparity is so great is because it's Josh freaking Allen as your starting quarterback. So it's a huge loss if he's out of the game. But sometimes it is for a short period of time. So, I hope Matt Barkley's fine. I hope he goes back to his role. Yeah. And I think Kyle Allen will get a lot of snaps next week. I would think. Yeah. Unless there is an issue with Barkley, then they're going to have to bring somebody else in at the end. That's a Bills tradition, bringing in a quarterback for the end of the preseason. Matt Leinart ending his career. Yeah. Palmer's, right? Jordan Palmer was there. All those guys. Sorry, I derailed us there on the quarterback.
No, you're fine. I think that's you hope, yeah, it's not something serious in terms of the injury. But yeah, Kyle Allen, I think he was the guy that you were expecting to take over that second spot. So I mean, it seems like
that's what it's going to be.
that's where it's trending. Yeah. Gentlemen.
Yes.
Middle linebacker, Michael.
Yeah.
Is a
problem.
Yeah, they don't have a starter. They really don't. They have guys who can play in this league. AJ Klein's tough hits.
Yeah.
He's not a coverage guy. He never has been. He's like we said it last week. He's a thumper, is what he is. And Tyrell Dodson, I understand too, because Terrell Bernard's not playing, but Spector came in. But like, if you're playing in that game in the second half, they don't think of you as a number one guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean that one of those guys isn't going to start. I mean, what are you going to do now? Right. But, right off the bat. Now, look, here's the way I look at it is if you look at that touchdown by the Steelers, both linebackers, Matt Milano, the first touchdown, Matt Milano also, they get eaten up by blocks, both of them. But we've seen Matt Milano make so many plays. Yeah. So I'm not worried about Matt Milano. He's Matt Milano. Tyrell Dodson has not been that guy. And McDermott has said it with his words, like no one has stepped up. There's nobody that's been there. I think they really wanted it to be Bernard to make Dan right from last year when he had his hot take. But I saw Bernard on the sidelines, not in uniform. I mean, that's what it is. So one of these guys is going to play unless, Dan, they're making a deal or getting on the waiver wire at the end of camp.
Yeah. I think this was a little bit of hope in one hand and crap in the other, right? Because we talked about Spencer Brown hoping that he was going to send back at that right tackle position, as well as somebody would step up as a middle linebacker. And right now they haven't. And so it's an awkward spot where they are in, where they don't really have a guy. They have guys, but they don't have a guy.
It's really a shame too, because I feel like Terrell Bernard, like a hamstring issue, which what he's dealing with, like those are really tricky. Like you have to be that soft tissue. Like you really have to be, abundantly cautious with that because it can turn into something a lot worse. But in terms of what we've seen, like from Tyrell Dodson and just, playing in the second half of a preseason game, like it's just not a good look. And I give AJ Klein a lot of credit because I think that he's been able to, in moments with this team, like step up and kind of, fill the void. But he's just the talent level and where they need him to be. There is a discrepancy there. I mean, that's not a hot take. So now it's like, it's kind of crunch time. What are you going to do? And also we talked about with Sean McDermott during preseason at camp and Fisher, like, he wants that middle linebacker to call the plays. Like he wants them to be that guy in the defense. So if you're bringing in someone else, like you're going to have to teach them the whole defense in 3 weeks. Like that's also another thing that's going to be a concern. So where they're at and where they need to be, there's definitely a pretty large gap there. So that is something that honestly, that's like one of the biggest takeaways for me is what are they doing in terms of that?
Yeah.
Like offensive line, middle linebacker. And then I think we can say that cornerback spot opposite Trey White, like it seems to be Dane's job, Dan.
Absolutely. He just continues to play solid. Kyer, another subpar game, another, like Mike called, another pass interference. He's just too handsy. It's what we see at practice, why wide receivers seem to be getting annoyed with him. We see it in the games, and the refs call it every time. So I don't know where he really fits in because we've seen even better plays out of Christian Benford closing. Benford's able, I tweeted out, he's able to play physical without always getting flagged. Like Elam to play physical constantly gets flagged. Like there's a fine line between being physical and a penalty. And right now, Kyer doesn't have that level.
And I don't think he knows which way to go, Jenna. He got sort of bull rushed a little bit on that touchdown. Yeah. I mean, the Steelers guy, tight end, just ran right to him. And did he push off a little? Yeah, maybe, but they usually get away with that. He turns around, he's open for the touchdown. Yeah. And then the other one was, I mean, it's a tough call because there is contact there, but Kyer is handsy. He just is. Yeah. And he gets called for it all the time. So, got beat off the line one time when they were in man coverage. Again, we say no game planning. I get it, but we've seen this before from him. So he's a backup. That's where he's going to be. That's where he's going to be.
Honestly, that's tough because just for the Bills, how much stock they put into him, like how much of an investment they made in the first round. And I mean, it's too early to see like in terms of whether he's a bust or not, obviously. And I don't expect it to be that, but it's just really tough to see that when you use someone that, Mike, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just scratching my arm here. Just in my mind, I'm thinking it's too early, but he's getting beaten out by Dane Jackson and really Christian Benford.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
Okay. And good football players, but come on, you were a number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said, it's one thing when we were like, oh, he's making, he's not at the Chiefs level. He's getting beat by some Chiefs. He's getting beat by backups for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Like he's getting beat by Calvin Austin off the line on 3rd and 3. He can't even touch the wide receiver. We got issues. We got issues.
I'm not, I just hate, like, it is not for long, NFL, all that stuff. Like, that's what the joke is in terms of the acronym, but there's a lot in terms of where he's at and where he needs to be if he wants to get serious playing.
Yeah. But another 1st-round pick flashed again tonight. I love the play Rousseau made.
Greg
came in and
breakout player of this defense.
He did not, a lot of times guys see that quarterback and they just go right there. He paused, which I love, and he kept the contain on the outside, and then boom, he attacked and he got the sack. I thought it was great. And you know what I love too is when he did attack and make the sack. I mean, you saw his length, his athleticism, the wingspan, the whole thing. I mean, it's a flash. He made a couple of plays in the running game too. That's what we need to see out of him. I thought that looked good.
I agree. All right. What is our final takeaway? Dan, I'll start with you.
Oh, I know what Dan says. Go ahead, Dan.
It doesn't matter.
Don't care. Next. I'll care more about practice on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday when we go out. Don't care.
You are so funny to me. Like, I don't get.
I'm not going to overreact to this. It was a bad game, bad performance, undisciplined, laxity. It was a bad game, but I'm not going to sit there and say this is who this team is.
No,
they have issues that they know they need to address, and I knew those issues before this game.
I'm going to pin this one a little bit on the coaching staff in total, and it's easy to just say McDermott. I think when your guys are out there like that, you at least want to see the organization. You want to see them look with a level of discipline. The penalties were really sloppy, like dumb guys not knowing the snap count, jumping off sides. That goes on all the coaches, by the way. Everybody looks at the head coach on either side. But I mean, this is what I say. Offensive line coach, tight ends coach, wide receivers, whoever's not getting the cadence right, because they had 2 tight ends had false starts. The pre-snap penalties drive them all nuts. Too many of those. And, special teams. I don't know what Taylor Rapp's supposed to be doing on that play. If you noticed, he's like the protector, but then he came all the way on the inside. And everybody should be listening to Steve Tasker on the broadcast. The guy knows it, but you got to keep that contain on the outside. That was sloppy. I thought it was sloppy. So I think Sean's going to be on his own. Yeah, I think he's going to be on his own coaches this week. And by the way, there is a plus for this, Jenna, because there's still a decent amount of time before the season starts.
Yeah.
He is going to light them up this week.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think.
I'm expecting a lot of running at the end of practice.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more. I don't think they have to worry about a lot of guys are worried about their spots, but I think they need that. I think if they're talking about keeping focus, this is the kind of game that he should be able to keep their focus.
Yeah, I agree. I am more on Mike's side as opposed to Dan's side of like, it doesn't matter and whatever. I feel like this is the funny thing about you, Dan. It's either all or nothing. Like, there can be stuff in the middle.
Who comes to Buffalo Plus to be like, well, this game could mean something or it could mean nothing? It's you got to go all in.
Is it Dan's mic?
It's Dan's mic just got.
It's because his mic knew.
His mic was editing him.
No. And he does have the nice background.
He does, yeah. Mine is in Ours is in we're working.
Transition. We're in transition mode.
Yeah.
We're in preseason mode.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Bills, we're gonna have to put in some work, but it'll come.
Yes.
It'll come together.
Yeah.
But no,
Matt Beauvais tried calling me during this. I think that's what screwed up my mic. Am I better?
Oh yeah. Okay, we should probably answer that call also, because I gotta do a show.
Yeah. By the way, a little inside TV here. You're not in the A block tonight, are you?
I am not. No.
Oh, good. I was going to say, it's coming.
Okay.
No, I know. I told them.
Jenna's got stuff to do.
I got stuff to do. No.
Oh, well, I was hoping for a more entertaining game.
Let me finish. My takeaway is this. There are things that we thought that were going to be concerning coming into the season. Today highlighted that those things still seem to be at the top of the list. I'll put it that way. And then this was you're either humble or about to be humbled. I think the Bills got humbled. This doesn't count against their record. None of that. The good thing is Josh Allen was not the problem. But at the end of the day, there is a gap between where they're at and where they want to be. They have time to work on it, but ugly outing for the Bills against the Steelers.
100%. Yep. And Josh was on the sidelines, hair looking good, talking to
a lot of his hair.
Talking to Diggs, smiling.
Yeah.
See, they're all fine.
They're fine.
Fine.
Yeah. Fine. Okay. All right. For Mike and Dan, I'm Jenna. Thanks for joining us. Please be sure to like, comment in your thoughts. What's your opinion of this game that we
Is Dan right or is Dan wrong?
Well, you know the answer to that, but what is your opinion? Who was a player that really concerned you and who was a player that really stood out to you in a positive way? We want to hear from you. We read the comments and we always appreciate it. And also visit the Buffalo Plus store, buffaloplusstore.com, to get your own Dan is Wrong mug.
There's two sides.
Yeah, but I don't want to mention that.
Spin that baby around.
Yeah. What's the other side?
No idea. It's all
Hold on.
chipped
Show
up.
the picture, though, of you getting hit. It's funny.
I got hit with a football.
It's so good.
I think my Wi-Fi is pretty bad.
Yeah, hang on 1 second. Hang on. What? I think the Bills just got called for another penalty.
Hold on. Matt Barkley had another turnover.
Oh, wow. Jenna, you're mean.
That was not nice. And he's also injured, so now I feel bad. But
yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining us for today's video, sponsored by Connors and Ferris. We always appreciate it. All right. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you, folks. We'll see you next time on Buffalo Plus.